Hello and welcome back to the Tapped In podcast. My name is Bailey. I am your host and I'm in a park. I am in a beautiful park that I've never been to before. It's a public park, so we're going to be hearing some people. Oh my gosh, there's ants everywhere. On this podcast, we talk about spirituality, self-development, and all things having to do with the soul and how we're all connected. And I love to talk about God and everything that is beautiful and spiritual and divinely intertwined. Today's episode, I have no notes or anything. If you listen to my podcast regularly, you would know that I have not been on in a while. It has been an intense couple weeks. I'm not going to get into it for the sake of time and your guys' energy, just because I don't want to be complaining and yapping and just complaining about things that I had no control over. But let's just say that it has been a very, very imperfect couple weeks. I've been dealing with my wisdom teeth and moving from my new apartment to another new apartment. So it's just been intense, to say the least. So I've just been battling so much these past couple weeks. And I've also been just getting so close with God. And it's just insane how, as in the title is today, finding peace throughout the chaos. I feel like throughout that whole couple weeks, I was having such an intense time trying to figure out how to stay interconnected and how to stay aligned, even in the midst of so much happening around me. You know, I had schoolwork to do, I had to move, I had to heal from wisdom teeth. I just had so much going on, and it truly just felt like it was one thing after another. And I hate to say that because words have so much power, and I don't want to put power over the words that are, over the phrases that are demeaning and over the phrases that, you know, we put a lot of weight on, you know, like it's one thing after another. When it rains, it pours, blah, blah, blah. You know, like I don't want to put power over those sayings because I don't want to give those sayings any power at all. I want to give the sayings of light and love and joy and positivity way more power than anything ever. So I just was kind of having a very hard time not letting the negative thoughts win for just that chunk of time. But I think the one thing that if you're battling with, feeling like you're just going from one thing to the next, for one, I think that that's just adulting and that's just life, to be honest. And I know that seems kind of like an obvious answer, like, oh, that's just life. It's just, everything's constantly happening all the time. But I think that whenever we truly try to find balance within everything happening all the time, then that's when we've truly been able to master life. Do I think that we ever really master life because things super heavy and not super heavy and amazing and not so amazing happen? Like, yes, like I definitely think that there's going to be challenges after challenges and wins after wins and challenge win. Like, I definitely think it's going to be a series of mixed events. But I also believe that even in the series of challenges and grief and sadness and chaos, there's so much like peace that can be found even within those little moments. And I think when I was just battling healing from my teeth, not being able to eat what I wanted and having to spend so many hours on schoolwork and having to just juggle so many things, I feel like I also was able to have so much gratitude for the fact that I did have so much going on. And that might sound a little paradoxical to some people, but sometimes, like, the things that we do have going on, like, say you just have so much happening to you all at once, but imagine, like, you a couple years in the past, like, maybe you weren't doing as much, maybe you were just kind of chilling, living at home, or maybe you were just living in a spot, just smoking weed or whatever the case was. Like, maybe there was a season of life where you weren't doing that much, and then now you're in a season where you're doing way more than you thought you could handle. I look at those seasons of not doing much as preparation for as much as we were and or are doing. And I think that is what where the blessings can be found. I think that, imagine you have so many, dare I say, problems or so many things going on, but like, what other situations would you rather be happening? Of course, you would probably rather have peace. Of course, you'd probably rather have nothing happening and being chill and just vibing. Like, I'm sure that we all have seasons where we just prefer to be chill, but I think something that was helping me throughout the chaotic era and needing to find peace was being grateful for the fact that the problems and the issues that I was having and the challenges that I was having were challenges that, one, I knew I'd have to face at some point, and two, I was grateful that I was facing them at all. Because if I weren't facing these issues head on, I would have been putting it off and then putting it off and putting it off. And if I kept putting it off, then it wouldn't have been those issues on top of new problems, And something that I was talking to my friend about when I was going through all of that chaos, something that I was talking to my friend about was, she was saying, or I was telling her, I feel like that it's just all happening at once. I feel like everything is happening at once and it's just so unbalanced. And I just feel so like all over the place. One thing she told me was, it might feel like it's all happening at once, but it's all happening at once. At least it's all happening at once, And I was like, wow. That's a great way to put it. Because if it weren't all happening at once, then I would be dealing with the problems anyway, just in sporadic timing, which isn't that much of a relief, I feel. And I just think that another thing that has been keeping me so grounded is the fact that God doesn't give me these situations because God wants me to suffer, because God wants me to be unhappy, or because God wants me to, constantly be struggling and having problems. God gives me these challenges because he knows that I'm in a position where I can handle them, but also he's preparing me for my future. I was looking at it because I'm taking a music class, okay? And I was healing from my wisdom teeth, and all I wanted to do was sleep. All I wanted to do was sleep and eat chicken, okay? But I couldn't do either because, for one, I was in pain, and they didn't give me pain relief. They only gave me ibuprofen. So, and the ibuprofen was like working, but it was like barely working, Like if you've had wisdom teeth removed, that shit was hard. But I could barely sleep because of the pain, and then I couldn't eat solid food for, a solid couple weeks. And I was just mentally struggling because it was just a lot. Like I said, throughout this whole episode, it was all happening at once. But I had schoolwork to do. Okay, you can't put off school. And even though I communicated to school, like, hey, I'm healing from my wisdom teeth, like, blah, 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 they still were very much so, like, understanding, But I am one of those people that if I know I have stuff to do and if I know I have stuff due, I get in this headspace where it's all that I think about until it's done. Like, and I don't know what that is. I think that's just a me thing. I'm not going to, self-diagnose myself to having it be some sort of disorder. I think it's just a personality trait that I'm happy to have because it makes me productive and it makes me happy, It makes me happy to be able to be productive, get stuff done, and then once it's done, it's out of the way and I'm set, it's out. But there's somebody coming. When I was in the midst of doing all these things, I was having a very hard time getting the homework done. I was attending the Zoom classes. I was trying to do the homework. I was trying to do everything that I needed to get done in order to get it done, of course. And something that came to me was, I feel that I'm being prepared for a season of life where I'm going to have so much going on in my personal life, but I'm going to have to constantly keep practicing my craft. And that is what kept coming up for me. And I love that was coming up for me because it was making me even more motivated. When I was like, geez, like I'm healing from my teeth. I have to deal with my moving. I have to find a new apartment. I have to blah, blah, blah. I was mentally dealing with so much in my personal life, in my personal space, but that doesn't mean school stops. That doesn't mean that homework has to stop. That doesn't mean that your career that you want to build stops, you know? And of course, sometimes you can put a pause on things depending on the life event. But I just was like, I feel like this season where I'm so busy with personal life and school, it's preparing me for what real life is going to feel like. And by real life, I mean whenever I actually go out into the real world and get a big girl job and start actually chasing my dreams in an active, like, real world way, you know? So once I started thinking of it like that, I started to kind of feel that my connection with God was growing so strong, because I really felt that my connection with him was growing so deeply because I was being prepared. And the fact that I was being prepared made me feel like I could handle it. The fact that I was being prepared made me feel like no matter what, I'm going to be able to achieve it, because of the fact that if I can go through this and come out on the other side, you know, have straight A's and XYZ, then I can be able to do this in the real world as well. I can be able to still work on my craft even in the midst of chaos. I can still be able to dedicate time to my art even in the midst of a chaotic life. And granted, it's different because all school is like they give you the breakdown. You got everything else, you know, they give you a base, you know. In the real world, there's really no base that they give you. You kind of got to do it all yourself. But that's why I said it was a preparation era. I just felt like I was being prepared for something in that chunk of time where I was so stressed and so confused. So I think that in a season of chaos, in order to find the stillness and the peace, we have to just have so much trust and so much faith that every season of chaos and every season of a chaotic era has a purpose. It all serves as a purpose to prepare you, whether it's to prepare you for a relationship, whether it's to prepare you for a family, whether it's to prepare you for a career path or an avenue of life that you're not unsure where it's going to go. Like, I think that it's really, really important to keep in mind that even in the midst of chaos, the peace can be found within the fact that it's not going to last, and that we have to trust that we're in a season of preparation. I think about it as, because I did theater throughout my life. And before the show, you are rehearsal after rehearsal, day in, day out. You're just constantly thinking about the show. You're constantly, oh my God, there's a duck with his little chicks and it's coming out of the lake. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, if they're going to come to this lake, I'm literally going to cry. I got so distracted by the ducks, so hold on. So I'm just going to keep the camera there because you guys need to see these cute little chicks. But I have done theater throughout a big chunk of my life, and right before the show, you're going to rehearsal day in and day out. I've spent literally 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Like, I spent so many hours at the theater because, you have dress rehearsal, you have to do blocking, and then you have to do a run through one time, and then you have to do a run through another time, and then sometimes you have to do a run through another time, okay? Because at dress rehearsal, sometimes they make you do a run through. Sometimes they make you do a run through without costumes. Then they make you do a run through with costumes. But then in the midst, you're also taking breaks. There's intermission, there's holds, there's notes, there's so many things, right? So right before the show is arrived, and right before it's opening night, you are being prepared for so many hours of having to just trust that the show's gonna go well, okay? And you have to just trust that your costume's not gonna fall off, and then you have to trust that if the rehearsal went good, then the show's gonna go good, and everything's gonna be fine, right? So I think that for me, the one thing that's helped me so much within this season of life, and honestly theater, is the fact that I know that if I'm doing this much preparation, I know it's going to lead to something good. I know it's going to lead to something great. And then opening night is always our best show. Every single time. Every single time. Opening is always the best show because you have the energy of the audience. You have more energy because you know you have something to perform for other than just the director and the lighting crew and everything. You know, like you have so much more to perform for than just the people that have seen the show as much as you have done it, you know? So I think that it's just a beautiful way to look at life, you know? Like you're in a season where it's just rehearsal after rehearsal and you're constantly preparing, constantly dress rehearsal, constantly showing up. And I think that whenever it's time to actually curtain up, steal the show, front and center, you'll be ready and you'll be prepared because you've been preparing this whole time for opening night. That's just kind of my way of looking at it. But if you're a believer, I would say just trust in God, trust in the process, and just know that before Jesus died, he had so much preparation for what he was about to go through. And I just feel like that's just one thing that I want to leave you guys with is if you're in a season of chaos, just remember that you are in a preparation season. You're in a season of morphing to becoming more you than you probably could have ever imagined. And then you're going to come out on the other side being like, I have no idea how I did that, but I did that. And you're like, I ate that. I ate that up. I did that. So just give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, and just know that every season of chaos has another season of peace on the other side. I promise. But you have to trust. You know, my hope and faith in you can't be enough if you don't have the hope and faith within yourself. So thank you guys so much for tapping into the Tapped In podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes weekly. Again, so sorry I fell off. I'm back now, better than ever. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, give this show 5 stars. Jeez, it's been a while. Give this show 5 stars. Your ratings mean a lot to my show, and definitely leave a comment on what you thought. Share this episode with somebody that might be going through a lot of chaos in their life. And yeah, thank you guys so much for tapping in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.